I've got two problems with this bicycle tire. One, the inner tube leaks, and the other is the tire's dry rotted. I'm going to show you how to fix the inner tube leak and replace the dry rotted tire. Let's get started. The first thing we want to do is release the brake cable. There are various designs on different bicycles, and I wanted to show you a few. Some are easier than others, but the idea is basically the same. Now we can remove the wheel from the front fork. This older bicycle has two nuts holding the wheel onto the fork, but most newer bicycles now have the quick release lever. With the wheel removed, unscrew the cap and let the air out of the tire. With the air out, we're ready to remove the tire from the rim. In this example, I'm using tire levers. They are basically dull, flathead shaped screwdrivers that assist in removing the bead from the rim. These tools can be purchased for just a few dollars, but in case you are trying to repair a flat and do not have these tools, you could try a dull flathead screwdriver or something similar to that. While doing this, be careful not to damage the rim, the bead of the tire, or the inner tube. All you need to do is pull the bead of the tire over the rim in one spot away from the valve stem, move over 4 to 6 inches, and pull the bead over the rim, and repeat that process until the bead of the tire is free from the rim. Now that the one bead is free from the rim, we move on to removing the inner tube and the tire from the rim. It always helps to work your way around the rim while staying away from the valve stem and doing that area last. Now that we've got the inner tube removed, we want to inflate it, and you actually want to overinflate it a little bit. And there's a number of ways to find the leak. You can listen and feel for it, or you can use soapy water in a spray bottle. Just spray around the tube, and when you find the leak, there will be bubbles. And there it is. The other method, which always works, is using a pail of water, and you just run the inner tube around in the pail of water and look for bubbles. And there we are. Now, let's mark the inner tube and go over and make the repair. I always keep an inner tube repair kit on hand. They come with sandpaper, instructions, rubber cement, a metal grater for the rough spots, and a variety of patches. Now we'll take the metal grater and just knock down the high spots. You can see there's a seam in the tube, and you don't want to be too aggressive to weaken the tube, but just knock that down a little bit so the patch will stick well. Then we'll take the sandpaper, and you want to rough up the area, the entire area that the patch will cover. After you've roughed that up, you want to take some rubbing alcohol and wipe that whole area down to take off any grease, dirt, contaminants, oily spots, so that the patch will really adhere to the tube. Now we move over to a nice flat working surface and apply the rubber cement. You want to make an application larger than the area that the patch will cover. Then take the patch, remove the foil backing, which leaves the sticky side of the patch. It's kind of hard to do. And center the patch over the puncture hole. Then you want to press firmly to make sure there's no air bubbles and you get good contact. I also like to take a little rubber wheel or something and roll out any air pockets. Let it set up for 1 minute and then remove the clear plastic cover over the patch, and the patch is complete. Now we fill the tube back up with air go back to our pail of water and check for any leaks. And it looks good. We're ready to move on. Before we install the inner tube on the rim, we want to make sure that the rim strip is properly installed and that there are no sharp edges. Here's an example of a rim that does not have a rim strip. If you run into that and you're not real particular, you could just run tape around the rim to protect the tube. Now I like to do a quick check of the tube and the tire that's going to be installed. Make sure that there are no thorns or sharp edges that could puncture our new tube. I'm going to install a new tire on this bicycle, and some tires are directional. If that's the case, it'll be marked on the side wall of the tire, and you want to make sure that you install it so it's moving in the right direction. Now we're ready to install the tube in the tire. I like to put a little air in the tube so it properly seats in the tire and prevents kinking, pinching, or binding when the tire is installed on the rim. With the tube properly installed in the new tire, we begin by putting the valve stem through the hole of the rim. I like to put the cap on to keep that from pulling out while I am putting the tire and tube on the rim. Then it's just a matter of working your way around the rim and pushing the tire and tube on the rim. You shouldn't have any problem working your way around, getting that on, but if you do, you can use the tire lever to get the last little bit on. If you need to do that, be careful not to pinch the tube. After that's done, you want to make sure that the valve stem is straight and not at an angle because it can pinch and cause a leak. Now that we have all that completed, I'm ready to fill the tire with air. When filling the tire with air, you want to do it gradually. Just put a little bit in and then go around the tire and make sure that the bead of the tire is properly seated with the rim. Now that everything looks good, we can finish filling the tire, check the pressure, put the cap back on, and we're ready to tighten the wheel down. When installing the wheel, you want to make sure it is centered in the fork. We're looking good. We can go ahead and tighten it down. All that's left is hooking up the brake cable and we're ready to ride. If this video was a help to you, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And I look forward to helping you with other projects online.